Alrighty, guys, welcome to Chat with the Brewer Live. This is Wooden Legs Brewing Company out of Brookings, South Dakota, but we're not here to talk about what we do. We're here to talk about what you guys do. Welcome from Brookings all the way from Rapid City. We've got the crew from Firehouse. How you guys doing?
Very well, thank you.
Very well.
In Brookings today?
It's cold in Brookings today. It seems to be cold in Brookings all the days here. So you guys are Firehouse Brewing Company. Why don't you guys give me a quick introduction? Who are we talking to here, and how are you part of the Firehouse out in Rapid?
Go ahead. Well, I'm Mike. I'm Mike Kilroy, and I'm the brewer here. And I'm Bob, and I'm the operating partner down here at the Firehouse.
So we've got the brewer and the owner, or the brewer and the headmaster, right?
There you go. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you really well, actually.
Okay.
We're going to turn the radio down here just in here so we can hear you a little better. So I'm interested to know, the Firehouse Brewing Company is probably one of the oldest continuously operated breweries in South Dakota right now. When did you guys get started?
It is the oldest. We started in 1991, shortly after the law was changed by the feds to allow breweries and brew pubs, I should say, back in the United States. And then in South Dakota, we actually went and did the beer thing and changed the law in South Dakota so that we could operate a brewery and a restaurant bar operation all within one building, hence the brew pub idea.
So that was 1991, and you said that law didn't exist before that time?
Correct, yeah. That was when we changed the law in South Dakota, and yeah, so we've been doing it for about 23 years now, 24 years almost. We've been brewing beer here in South Dakota.
That's spectacular. I have some pub keeps here that I think were born in 1991. So you guys here. That is great to hear. I actually want to hear more about the Firehouse, but I think it's customary in these types of things to actually talk about the beer so that I have a reason that I can ask samples while we're having a discussion here. You've sent us, it looks like I've got 4 different beers. I know when I called Mike ahead, he said he was going to send some of his favorites here. So I'm going to have to ask you, Mike, tell me, I've got a honey beer here. This is the Honey Badger?
That's what I'm having, as a matter of fact.
There you go. Good taste, then.
It's a German brown. It's kind of soft. I like it because I don't really like coffee a lot, but I like dark beer. So it has a lot more chocolate than coffee in it. And Bob not so secretly hates the coffee in beer, so I try to avoid that. That was nice of him to put that little touch in.
So the honey here. How much honey do you use in the honey brown?
We use 30 pounds in 8 barrels. Or 250 gallons roughly, 248. And a lot of chocolate, a lot of Munich, and it's a 2-row base. And then it's very lightly hot with just equal parts Saaz and Earthspark.
Excellent, and I think there is some subtlety in the hop character there. It doesn't come real strong, but it has a lot of the malt. Next one here, I think we're going to make a departure from the honey. I've got the IPA in my hand. Now, this isn't the one we've had before, right? This is a new IPA you've sent out?
Well, yeah, it's new. The first one came out almost a year ago. I was having trouble with my IPAs. I wasn't happy with them. And we went down to the Great American Beer Fest 3 years ago. Yeah. And ran into the guys from the Green Flash Brewery. I don't know if you're familiar with the Green Flash out of San Diego. But we started chatting with those guys, and they were Charger fans, and so am I. And so I started talking about the malt bill, and we've been drinking. And so I told him my malt bill, and he said, "Oh, no, man, you need way more malt than that." And so I came back, wrote the recipe after talking to him, and told him I'd name it after him, so that's why it's the Supercharged IPA.
Supercharged IPA. All right, I love it.
I told him I'd name it after him.
No, I've never met the guys from Green Flash. I imagine they have hops growing out of their beards. Do they have like little clusters of Centennial coming out from underneath their chin, and like wild woodland creatures coming to to pull the hops out of it?
Well, and to me, that IPA is very hoppy. To those guys, I'm sure it's just middle of the road.
Well, I think this one's very good, actually. This is probably one of the favorites you guys have sent out. They're all very good. Now, I think I have the Pale Ale. You're going to have to tell me about this one because this might be the only flagship that I've had you send out.
Well, I think we better let Bob handle this one because Bob created this recipe. Is this the chucker? This is the chucker. Yeah, this is the chucker. We actually
started brewing that one all the way back in 1991. It was one of the very first beers we ever made. And it's an IPA, and it was actually named, when we were done with our brew, we would take all our spent grains out back, and we had a rancher that was picking it up out here, and the rancher happened to be a big-time polo player. And so he invited myself and our other brewer out to play polo with him at that time. And so we all got really into the sport of polo. And we played teams from Pierre and Sioux Falls and Sheridan, Wyoming, and once in a while Minneapolis and Des Moines. But we needed a beer to go along with our polo habit. So we ended up coming up with the Checker at that time. So.
Now that is a fantastic story. I would have imagined there's a lot of bowling, team beers and maybe a couple of softball team beers, but a polo team beer is probably the first I've had.
Yeah, this has a lot of polo and drank a lot of beer. It worked out perfectly.
Hey, you know what? Most of those sports involve a pretty good helping of beer. This is an excellent clear color. I mean, this is probably a classic British pale ale. It is gorgeous. I know the camera can't pick it up here. Do you guys filter all of your beers? How do you get the crystal clear look from them?
About 60%. We won't filter the wheat because, well, as you know, it's relatively useless to filter wheat. And we don't filter the really dark ones like the stout. Honey Badger's not filtered. And that IPA is not filtered because I don't want to lose any of the hoppy goodness on the dry hop. So we're probably 6 to 10 we filter. Yeah. But we only go down to 300 microns too. We don't go to a fine filter.
Well, they look gorgeous here. Now, the last one on the paddle, this is the one I will let you guys explain in its full detail. And I know there's a couple of our regulars here that have already had a pint of those, and they said this is their favorite. This is the Berserker, right?
Yeah, that was fun. Well, it all started with the local homebrew club, which I'm a member of, and have been for a few years. And one night after several beers, a guy asked me if I could make a lutefisk beer and make it taste good. And so, of course, I said, well, yeah, I can do anything. I can walk on water. Give me an old shoe, I'll make beer. And so I tried it a couple times at home, and he was of Scandinavian descent, and so he wanted a Scandinavian beer. And what you're drinking has no lutefisk in it. If there's somebody that can make a lutefisk beer that tastes good, they are a better man than me.
I appreciate that we've got the lutefisk-free version of this one here.
But it was fun. We took and it was an homemade beer about 800 or 1,000 AD. We took a juniper branch about 6 feet tall and put them under the false bottom of our mash tun, and then drained in as usual. But then when we sparged through it, we sparged through all that juniper, and then we used a little bit of juniper berry instead of hops through the boil.
This is very good, actually, and I don't know. Maybe I have to now pick between the Berserker and the IPA. Both very good. Now you guys have a couple more regulars out there. I think you have a stout as well. What do the people of Rapid City, South Dakota, drink when they come to your establishment?
Oh, I would say, well, in the summertime, it's always the wheat beer, and then we do another one called the Blue Eyed Girl, and they're both very lightly hopped, very light colored, very light beers. In the wintertime, the red is hands down favorite. The Smoke Jumper Stout, it's not the fastest moving beer, but boy, if we don't have that,
we have upset customers. We don't keep the stout on tap. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Chucker is one of the flagships. Also, Honey Badger, and we're going to try to keep the wheat and the blue eye on tap all summer long in the summer.
That's excellent here. I've actually had a couple of those. Now, for those of the viewers out there, maybe some of the regulars in here that don't know where your location is, tell us where you're at in Rapid City. Tell us a little bit about the Firehouse. Tell us about your building. I've been there before a number of times. I think it's gorgeous. But maybe for the ones that haven't, can you give us a story of this cool building downtown?
Well, we bought the building back in 1991. And it was actually the Rapid City Fire Department from 1915 through about 1972, shortly after the flood. And I think it was about 74, actually, when the new fire department opened down the street a ways, about a half mile down the street. So, and it became a fine dining restaurant in between until we got it. And then in 1991, we bought it and we put the brewery in and the whole bit. And we, at that time, we really didn't keg at all. We just ran all the lines underground into the bar, and everything we made, we served right here on premise. And we've been doing that for, the first 15, 20 years. And then now in the last 4 or 5 years, we've been doing a lot more kegging, a lot more off-sale beer. And this last year in 2014, we actually opened our winery. 3 years ago, we bought the building next door and we started remodeling that. And so now the winery is located right next door to the brewery. And this will be here in May. It's going to be our 100th anniversary of the building here, and so we have some special festivities and that going on here in May for our 100th anniversary. And I'll let Mike tell you about the really cool thing we have going on in the brewery.
Oh yeah, we're all open fermentation here. So it's been American Ale 1056 since day one. The only yeast we use. Well, in the winery, I can get some closed fermentation tanks. We'll build a conduit from the brewery to the winery, and then we'll start making lagers. Perhaps a Belgian here, there, that kind of thing. And that's what I'm the most excited about.
So we'll get to see a couple of those clean and crisp ones coming out this summer. Then I think that probably fits well. I think the one thing that I've always enjoyed when I come out the hills, and you've got an outdoor music space as well, just to the side of the building. You have bands there, and I've never been to one, but I've seen them on Facebook. You also have is it a theater upstairs? How does that work?
Oh gosh, yeah. The theater right now is a play called The Underpants, written by Steve Martin, and it's what you'd expect. It's hilarious. What's the next one that starts off? Is it Spelling Bee?
Spelling Bee's next, and we just got done with Jesus Christ Superstar, which is a musical that did really well as well. So that was great fun. And yeah, so we do that on the third floor. We have our theater, and then between the brewery and the winery is located our outdoor patio. And every night all summer long, we have live music out there on the patio. And we're really looking forward to, probably around Memorial Day is when we're going to have our first introduction of our lagers.
So you've
got.
got.
Hoping to have those about the time the bands start.
So let me get this straight. You've got a brewery, a winery, a theater, an outdoor music venue, and a restaurant on property. Do you have beds? Is there a place to sleep? I think that's really cool. You guys have seen a lot of growth in the last couple of years. Maybe I'll have you talk to that a little bit. I know the winery is a relatively new addition. I know that brewing in the Black Hills in general, craft beer in general, is on the rise there. I'd just like to hear from you guys of where it's going. Where is beer in South Dakota going next? Where do you see the Firehouse going in the next couple of years?
Oh, well, it might be kind of a pipe dream, but the bottling thing would be the next phase. I would imagine, though, before we could hit that kind of production, we'd have to get a little bit bigger somehow, which is not impossible. The winery is, we can take a little small piece of it for a few lagering tanks. Just, they're each going to be a 20 barrel, 2 20 barrels in one bright tank. But that's about as much space as we're going to be able to take away from the winery, because that's going really well. And as you know, making beer is so much better because you can make it and drink it a month and a half later. Whereas wine, you get one shot one time a year to make it, so you better make enough to last you all year. So that's been
good. I love good wines, but I can appreciate them. I have ADD, and I usually end up forgetting about what I put in a bottle by the time the wine's done. So we'll get right into the beers. Now, you guys, we have a couple kegs out here. Sorry about that. We have a couple kegs out here, guys. Where else do you guys distribute to? I know that there's a couple of pockets of places. Obviously, you come to Rapid City, you can find the Firehouse downtown. If we have viewers online, where else can they look for you?
Oh gosh, we're all over. We're up in Hill City at the Silver Dollar. We're the Huron guys. the distributors through here in the middle part of the state, we're in a lot of different places. And I hate to say it, there's a lot of them I don't know about.
Yeah, they've recently put us into a number of bars all the way up to Aberdeen and over that direction. And here in Rapid City, we also we have the Wobbly Bobby, Chow, and Cape Pasa. We're in those as well, which are just down the block from the brewery.
Yeah, just downtown. I'm just in over at Independent Ale House. Has a few of our kegs around. Not all the time, but sometimes. There's Dave's Famous Barbecue here in Rapid City carries us. You can usually find the Firehouse Red someplace.
It sounds like you've got a number of accounts there. How big is the system? How much you guys are sitting in front of Fermenter 3, if I can read correctly. How big a brew house do you guys have?
The kettle can go to 10. We generally do 8 here. So we'll go 8 barrel, and we'll yield about, maybe not 6.5.
So the new lagering tanks that we're putting in, we'll actually do a double brew. We'll brew twice in one day, or maybe simultaneous day to day. We'll do 10 barrels each shot.
Yeah, we had more.
We have a 3-barrel here, and 10 barrels makes us jealous. I've got Chris here who does a lot of our brewing. I can just hear him crawl. I must compliment though that this was not planned, but the outfit that Chris is wearing is very similar. I don't know if this is now a South Dakota Brewer uniform. It's a solid choice, is what Chris said. I wish somewhere that I would put that in the email beforehand to make sure that we knew we were going to wear the bib overalls. But so with a 10-barrel system and a little bit of distribution, that seems like it will keep you plenty busy. The question though I have is, how do you stay entertained? What is your favorite beer to make? Do you have a chance to ones off and whimsicals? I mean, this Berserker definitely is something I enjoy. Is that going to be a locally added one, or how do you stay entertained?
Oh, well, we have a guest brewer program that's just a hoot. Regular customers, people write in. We always try to make them jump through some hoops, but we've never really turned anybody down. But if they come in and just pull one out of nowhere, that's my favorite thing. I mean, there's a few beers that I don't make very often that are kind of like my favorites to drink, but my favorites to make are the ones I've never made before.
How about some collaboration brewers? If you're doing some with homebrewers, do you work with any of the other producers in town? Is there a coffee beer? And you said you had is it a chili beer that you've got on right now?
No, right now we don't have a chili beer, but we did one with the President Riders last summer. We called it what was it? Falso Bar, yeah. Falso Bar, jalapeno cream ale. But, a lot of times people just come in and want to meet the brewer, want to see the brewery. And we get to chat with them. It's like, well, what would it take to brew a beer? And it's like, well, I don't know. And so we do one a month. And they come in, and sometimes it's just somebody, like a regular customer that really likes the chucker. And it's like, well, boy, if I got beer, I'm making a chucker. Or sometimes it's like, well, why don't we used to make this beer? And those are my favorites. I'll just try to hunt down the recipe and see how close we can get.
I think the whimsical nature of all of it keeps us coming back. I'm actually, I've got a couple questions here. I'm going to let Chris probably ask the first one, and I'll pass the mic around. And I might actually go pour myself at least one more beer. So we'll let Chris go with it.
How you doing, guys? So the one question I had was just on about the brew house itself. Much like us, you're right downtown in the center of the town. Have you faced any significant problems with regards to zoning laws and things like that, trying to put a brewery in downtown? I mean, obviously you've been around a lot longer than us, so I'm sure some of the laws must have changed in the brewery's lifetime for you. But I know there are a number of limitations of things that we can and can't do in the brewery here, which is one of the main reasons we have electric heat as opposed to steam jacketing and stuff like that. Is there anything that has limited you at all, or have you had to think outside the box creatively, or have you just, marched into the office and got stuff changed in Pier?
It was, when we built the brewery, we had all the same challenges you did, for sure. We actually have our boiler is quite a ways out back of the actual main facility of the building, and it's located on, so to speak, little building that just houses the boiler and the hot water heater. And the reason being is they wanted that away from the public, and so we actually ran the steam lines quite a ways to get up to the boiler. Also, I guess maybe we were fortunate in the fact that when we did the brewery, it was the first one around this area. Nobody in the planning department really knew for sure what it was we were trying to do, so they were very good to us. They kind of turned their heads and just let us keep going. So that was good, but I think now they kind of have an idea of what we're doing, so it's a little more difficult to just make things up. But also, I think in 91, when we built the place, the codes were quite a bit less stringent than they are today. So.
In 1991, was that an ask forgiveness policy that?
Way more so, let me tell you.
I think don't let luck get you. That's his credo. That's our motto around here.
One question I have for you guys is that, we at the pub here, we've only been open about 2 years. It's going to be 2 years this summer. And we've already seen a colossal number of changes in craft beer just in the 24 months. What is the biggest changes you guys seen? I mean, since 1991, man, I bet you've seen fads come and go and some stay. What are the changes that you've seen since you opened the pub?
The biggest thing and the biggest challenge, when we opened in 91, people in South Dakota had no idea what a micro beer was. And we had so many people come in that were upset with us that we weren't making Budweiser. So that's probably the biggest thing, was the challenge of teaching everybody what a microbrew is and the whole 9 yards. Nowadays, everybody knows what a micro is, and they're used to drinking ales and things of that nature. It wasn't that way back in 91 at all. When people from South Dakota walked in here especially, they really had no idea what they were getting into. But fortunately, that's all changed, and that's made for a way nicer environment.
So in 91, who are some of your inspirations? I mean, we're a young company. We can pick through a whole catalog of people that have done it before us. But in 91, who did you look to as places you learned from?
Well, actually, I actually went and brewed with the guys at the Wooden Brewing Company down in Denver. John Hickenlooper was the owner of the place, and of course he went on to become mayor and now governor of Colorado. And so back then it was he and I and another guy down in brewing beer, and that was kind of fun to have got on board with that way back when. So the Wooden Coop was our big inspiration, and they spun off several breweries back in the early 90s.
I think we've got another question from the audience here. I'll let Cassie.
Okay, so, I mean, you look at craft beer and what it is now and what it has been in the past. How do you weather the storm of those trends and, like, the sours and, the crazy, like, oh, everybody wants to have this yesterday? How do you weather those trends over the last 23, 24 years?
Buy a lot of hops.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's fun to come up with things. It actually cracks us up because when Mike put the juniper into the beer, the Berserker, we actually Mike went over to our computer guy's house and cut down his tree.
I didn't cut down his tree.
So this tree is looking very lopsided. It looks like a Charlie Brown tree now, which is interesting because the next time we brew that beer, the other side's going to get lopped off.
But I think over the years, the biggest change, and I've seen, and I've only been with these guys for 4 years now, but hops. Everybody wants hops now, and it's huge. And the IPA doesn't pour the fastest at our brewery, but it is, if you don't have it, the people that want it are the most vocal about it. Yeah, they need one.
The question I always ask for any of the people that join us in on the interview is, if there's a pile of people out there that watch and a pile of people that come to the pub that always say, we're going to do a brewery, or I'm going to run a craft beer bar, or I'm going to get hired by a craft beer bar, or I'm going to get hired by a brewery. The dreams are endless, and I love them. What advice would you give to those people out there that are the dreamers? What do you need to tell people that are looking to start their own brew pub or brewery? What do you wish you would have heard in 1991?
Oh my gosh. You know, I think it's wonderful. The biggest thing that we've noticed, we now have A-Camp Brewing Company, which is down the street, and we have the bigger one up in Spearfish, Crow Peak, and then the Prairie in Hill City. But the biggest thing we notice is when a new brewery goes in, people find out about micros and everybody's sales go up. It's just kind of a neat deal. So we're really welcoming of others coming into the market, and it's been a good deal for us, and it just makes it just advances the industry, so to speak, enough that it makes it for good camaraderie rather than heavy competition in the industry right now.
Got guys like Landon up in Bit Resters. We did a collaboration here with him last year, and it turned out really good, and it was just a blast. And you know, a bunch of us went up to Custer one night when he had his unveiling party, and a bunch of his guys came down to our bar for our tapping party, and it was just a hoot.
So, I don't know. I don't know if this is kind of a boring question, but I can't resist. I noticed behind you you've got open fermenters. Was that a conscious decision? What do you get out of that? Do you prefer doing it that way as opposed to closed fermentation? Like, why do you have those, I guess?
Here's a hint. Chris is not from around here. So he saw the open fermenters, and he poked me in the arm. He's like, "Are those open? Are those open fermenters? Are they made of stone?" No, they're not made of stone. But actually, it's a good question. But good question.
Well, I always like to tell people when they tour the brewery, Bob got a really good deal on the equipment because he got it on the old Flintstone set. But actually, I was kind of leery about it when I started working here. They work like a charm. I've never bugged one. I've never had one go balk on us, and usually, you know, we usually get done brewing about 3 in the afternoon is when we leave, and I come back in 5, 6 next morning, open that baby up, and it's raging.
Yeah, it takes off fast. The biggest thing back in '91, when we put them in, there were 2 things. One is we had a space limitation here, so we did not have a tall ceiling to work with. So the open fermenters worked better for us. But again, in '91, the open fermenters were very accepted. It was probably more the norm than the closed fermenters now.
Well, I appreciate your guys' time, and I appreciate the beers you guys have sent out. If you haven't seen the shirt yet, this is myself. Whenever I talk to people from South Dakota, it says "Drink beer from here." It is the state of South Dakota. We appreciate that you guys have blazed the trail for what we're doing out here in Brookings, and maybe even more importantly, I will see you guys this weekend. You guys going to the Boots and Beer Festival? We're gonna see you in Rapid.
Guaranteed. We will see you there.
And we will.
We're fans of you, by the way. Before we cut it off, Seth, Chris, we're fans of your guys' beer too. That makes guys a good beer.
All right, I appreciate it. We will drink a beer together and not virtually. We're going to log out for now, guys. Thank you for your time, and if anybody wants to find you, you are in downtown Rapid.
You betcha. There you go. Have a good one. Thanks so much, guys.
Cheers, gentlemen.